Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to Spicy Brain Podcast. We are very delayed. And this is where we navigate neurodiversity with curiosity, joy, and radical acceptance. Welcome if you're new to our podcast. If you are new, we do have a Facebook page. We love to invite you to Spicy Brain Studios. And if you are coming back, we are so glad to have you back. We love having you listen and go on our crazy journey with us. We always kind of come up with a story, and then we usually dig into that brain of my sisters, Megan, and sometimes my brain, because, I'm a little spicy too, Michelle. And, as we're going through all of this, we then try to come up with strategies, and we love asking you guys what your strategies might be as well. And so we try to communicate about that on our Facebook page. Today, we're going to kind of do a little story, and we're going to give a little shout out to somebody who has been your accountability partner in this new journey. Before we get to that, I want to start off with your kitchen. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if my kitchen's ready for it, but we're ready.
Okay, so ever since I've known you as an adult, I knew you as a kid, right? Different responsibilities, kid versus adult. Ever since I've known you as an adult, the kitchen has been sort of like the bane of your existence, I would say.
Yeah. It's my nemesis. The kitchen is my nemesis.
I remember one time saying like, well, why should I even wash the plate? I'm just going to use it again. And I was like, but
Oh, yeah.
Megan, that's gross. Like, you have to wash the plate.
No, my issue with the plate, Michelle,
Oh.
was that it was like this futile effort because I use the plate, I wash it, and then I use it again the very next day.
Yeah.
And so it's very frustrating for me because it's like I'm literally doing the same task over and over and over again. And it's so boring. And it's like, why do we? It's just so frustrating that I have to wash the dish every single time.
I feel like maybe you should have just been Greek. You could just break the dish.
Opa! Yep.
But you did do paper plates for a long time because of that.
I think I probably did. And then I learned about that it was bad for the environment. And then it became a whole nother mess. And I was just like,
Right. So it's like this daily task you have to do. It's overwhelming to you at some point because it's so boring.
Well, because the other thing is like, okay, you have 8 dishes, right?
Yeah.
In your
little set
cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're living alone, or even if you're living with somebody else, but primarily you're going to only use like 1 or 2 of those dishes. I'm like, so why do I have 8 dishes if I'm only going to use 2 of them? Like, I should use all of the dishes before I wash them all, because then it's like, okay, then I've used all the dishes, but otherwise, why do I have them?
Because you would have friends over?
Friends over. Yeah, right.
I don't know.
I'm so social. I'm going to invite them over to my ADHD house. Please come and check out my creativity and chaos. Careful where you walk. There's landmines everywhere.
Okay, so
yes, theoretically.
Theoretically. You have had people to your house recently, which is really exciting, actually. So I think there's progress been made. But I want to talk about today what you've come up with. You found this group and this organization, I think, right? And I think it's called, was it ADHD Vision? Is that the name of the organization?
And that's the name of the company. The name of the company is ADHD Vision. Yeah.
And you found, I'd love for you to take us through how you found this group, and also how you found what they called, I think it's called Focus Revolution. And what I first remember when you told me about it was that you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to go. And I'm like, what? You're like, I'm almost late. And and I'm like, what? I'm in the middle of talking to you, and I had no idea that you even knew you were doing something new, because that's you. You start something new all the time, and I never know. But you're like, I'm late. Oh my God, I gotta go. They're gonna yell at me. And I was like, and then you go, no, they're not gonna yell at me. They're just not gonna let me in. And I'm like, are you part of a cult? Like, what just happened? Then I was a little worried, and you just completely disconnected on the phone. And the next thing I heard, you had a clean kitchen. And that was it. Like, really.
Did I really do that?
Yes. You did that. You just, like, completely shut off the phone and were like, "Gotta go." Boom. And I'm like, "Okay." I mean, so I okay, so who are these people that are not gonna let you in? What is this about? Please
Okay,
inform me.
it's not a cult, Michelle, okay?
Okay.
I was looking for all sorts of different resources on the internet to figure out what would work for someone like me, and I looked on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the different places. I tried certain websites, and I came across all these different people, and this gentleman's name is Nick, and he's on YouTube, and he has, like, fun shorts that kinda just help you feel like you're not alone, and
Mm,
I think he wasn't diagnosed until he was later on in life, and so it just all sort of clicked for him, and so he had a group of people that he would connect with, and they would all body mirror together, and he thought, "Well, what if I could do that for myself? Like, if I could do that for other people?"
mm.
So, he's put together a team of coaches all over the world who then choose, like, different hours of the day, and they actually have 24-hour focus sessions.
Hmm.
So you get on Zoom with other people who need help focusing. There's always a coach who's there to like walk you through, get you started, help you kind of wrap up, and then you spend 50 minutes just focusing on whatever task you've committed to.
Okay, and that's like when we talk about that in terms of tomatoes of time. So that's like 2 tomatoes for you,
Yeah, 2 tomatoes.
25 minutes
And
each.
so I actually do a lot of my commitments in that kind of a time frame. Like I commit to 25 minutes of cleaning my kitchen.
Mm,
And then I commit to, I'll do commit of 30 minutes to laundry or something like that.
mm.
So I had just gone through everything and I was just in a really, really low point. And I'm sure it's one of those podcasts where I was not doing well. And I think you could hear it on the podcast.
Mhm.
And I thought like, well, this does cost money, but the idea of like being able to body mirror with anybody at any point in time sounds like that could work for me because like you and I working together has been really, really helpful. And I just also knew that you were in the middle of crazy fall and I'm like, I don't want to bother you too much about it.
Mhm.
And so I like, well, I'll try this. I mean, what's the worst that it could do? And the one thing he did say is like, okay, if you sign up for it, like you pay like a one-time fee and then it's a certain monthly fee. And he said, the one thing we will do is we will tell you before the end of the month, before we bill you,
Mm.
so that you can decide if you want to keep it
Oh,
up.
that's good. That's
And we
nice
won't
because if it's all ADHD people or not, maybe people don't remember. That's nice. Okay, so
exactly.
not a cult because 'cause you're allowed to leave.
Yes,
Yes,
you're
okay.
allowed to leave at any point, but there's some strictness to it because of this like need for dopamine and they've spent a lot of time with science like researchers and
Mm.
I don't know if it's scientists or not, but like researchers and people who understand this. I don't want to call it a disorder. What are we calling it? A distinction?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like
This
how the ADHD mind works, how the brain works,
yeah.
and the different chemical needs it has to be able to function at optimal level.
Yeah. One of the things is that like they do offer 24/7 support. However, if you are not there on time, if you are 1 minute late
Mm.
to the Zoom session, they will not let you in.
Wow. So that's why you completely ghosted me
I
that
did.
morning. Okay.
I gotta
Gotta
go.
go. I'm
Oh,
all
I
asleep.
gotta go. Oh my
I was like
god.
I'm like,
You won't let me in.
wow, whatever this is, I gotta learn about it because I have never seen your pants on fire like that ever. Like, I don't
Well, because
know.
I knew that if I missed it, then I would lose that whole hour of productivity with people. So I was like, I just gotta go and do it.
That's so good. So, okay, so your first one I remember was that one. Can we dig into this a little bit? Like, what happened during that first session, or at least the one I'm remembering? And like, what did you do, and how did that feel? Like, what was going on?
The first session was a little overwhelming at first. I didn't really understand what was going on, and I gave a little bit of feedback because I was like, I don't really fully get what I'm supposed to be doing for the first session, and like everybody had already been doing it, and I think I had come on like after a big chunk of people had all signed up.
Mm,
They helped me figure that out, which was great. You can reach out to them and help, know what the rules are. So what it basically is the first 5 minutes, they welcome all the people that are in for their first session of the day, and everyone writes in a commitment of what they're gonna do, and they have to say, like, "I commit."
Mm.
Each coach has their own way of doing it, but the idea is that you're saying out loud to this group what you wanna do.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, then you spend the 50 minutes. Well, then they do a little, centering, like a little bit of
Mm.
meditation or some kind of centering, box breathing or something to kind of help you visualize you doing that for the next 50 minutes to help bring the energy and the dopamine. Some people like make you, take a breath and then try to breathe all the air in and
Mm.
just something to kind of get you going.
And
They
they're
remind you to drink water.
That's good. Energize you.
Yeah. And then you spend the next 15 minutes focusing and you keep your camera on.
Oh.
So you're all like, you can literally watch this like grid of all these people all over the world doing their own tasks for 50 minutes.
Wow.
And at the end of the 50 minutes, they have a timer. And so they have like a little timer at the top that actually counts down how much time you have. And then they have a sound that says, like, okay, it's time to come back. And then they say like, "Okay, let's put our wins in the chat and talk
Mm.
about like what we did right and like where we are, how much focus do we feel right now on a scale of 1 to 5, just different things to kind of make you think like where are you at and how did you
Hmm.
do?" Some people get into the total flow and they're like, "Oh, I'm in the flow and I'm going to continue on to the next session."
Mm.
Others are like, "This was a slog and I just couldn't get into it and I need to go take a break."
Mm.
Or, "Hey, I've been on for 3 sessions and I need to go take a break now." Like there's just different people have different experiences. And the cool thing is that they read a lot of them out loud and you
Mm.
start to hear people doing things that you recognize in yourself. So someone would say like, "I just could not get my brain to focus. I had all these distractions. I tried my best, but I couldn't get back in." And so then the coach will say, "Okay, you did that, but like how much of your task would you say you completed?"
Mm.
And they're like, "Maybe 10% of my task." And they're like, "That's great. You finished 10% of your task
Mhm.
even though you were completely distracted. So let's celebrate that win."
The things I'm hearing you say are really positive, right? Like that they're having you set your goal, right? We talk about this all the time with students, like setting your goal, making sure that you know what you've accomplished at the end as well, and being proud
Mhm.
of those successes, whether they're exactly what you wanted to get done or even partially what you wanted to get done.
Yeah, and so the nice thing about these wrap-up sessions is that it helps you to not get so down on yourself
Mm.
that if you have this like crazy, day where your brain is just not functioning as highly as you want it to, then there's people all listening and supporting you. Like, we'll see people like send hearts, and we'll
Oh.
see people, clapping or just like, like hugging and like just trying to share like it's okay wherever you're at. If you need that extra help and love, we're going to send that to you
Mhm.
because you at least got like that 10% done. And don't beat yourself up because this is not your fault.
Yeah. You didn't create this. This is neurobiological. It is you were born this way.
You're born this way.
Absolutely.
And then on the other side of it, you have people who are like, "I'm so in the flow," and like that just flew by super fast.
Mm.
And then it's also a reminder of like, "Okay, that flew by so fast. Great. Have some water.
Take care of yourself.
Take a snack,
Yes.
eat, do something, like, what are you gonna do to help you?" And even if it's just they literally say like, "Hey, stand up. We're all gonna stand up for a second," or you just, move your shoulders, they're do a little, box breathing or whatever. Like each coach has their own thing that they do, which is nice. And it just forces you to move a little bit. So you're not just glued into this focus session of like hours and hours and hours and not taking care of yourself. It forces you out of flow
Mm.
to self-care.
Which is important because we've talked about that before where you'll get into such flow, you won't remember to eat or you won't remember to drink water
To
or
do
to do
anything, go to
anything,
the
stand up.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's like you can have like a whole day just go by and you're like, "Whoa, I was just in
So
it."
what does it feel like for you when you're in these sessions then for you personally? So like you were doing your kitchen, a thing you hate doing. I mean, hate maybe is overstating it, but
No. It's
Okay.
hate.
Okay. It's hate.
It is
It's
hate.
hate.
It is the bane of my
Yes, your
existence.
nemesis, as you've said. So, what did it feel like to be in that session doing that work?
Well, first of all, it was sessions.
Oh, okay.
It was not just a session. It was like weeks. So it started off the reason I actually joined was because my dishwasher broke.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Oh,
And I had actually gotten pretty good with the work that you and I did. I had started to get
yeah.
really good at just, like, picking up my kitchen at the end of the night,
And
and
doing
it
your
was
whole
super
thing.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my routine actually was pretty easy, and, like, you guys came and visited, and I was still
You
doing it. I
were. Yeah.
mean,
I remember I was
were
like,
you
what is
shocked?
happening right now? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Shooketh,
Yeah.
right? Like, my kitchen was clean most of the
It
time
was. It was really nice. Yeah. Like I could see counters. Not only could see them, they were wiped down. It was amazing.
and clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Yeah.
like, "Who am I?"
Right.
Awesome.
Exactly.
So my dishwasher broke, and
Mm.
it took about 3 weeks, almost a month for it to get fixed,
Ugh.
and it just blew up my entire life. And
Mm.
so I literally would start with my computer on in the kitchen, and I just would stand there and I'm like, "I'm here to do my kitchen. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just here." And so then they said, "Well, one session was like, make it a little bit more focus. Like, what do you wanna get done? Well,
Mm.
I need to, like, wash my dishes. I'm like, "Okay, I commit to 30 minutes of washing my dishes, and then I commit to 15 minutes of folding laundry," or whatever it was.
But how nice
And
that, like, because that is true for you, where you'll get to the place where you're like, I don't even know what first thing to do. And so to have a
yeah.
coach there that's like, hey, let's talk that through. What do you think might be, you know, that's great.
And that's what I think is the real value of it, is that if you get stuck, there's someone there to help you
Mhm.
get unstuck. And, they're not there to, like, do one-on-one sessions. I think they're starting to do that now, like, where
Mm.
you can book a one-on-one session with somebody, but they're there just to kinda give you little hits of dopamine to kinda get you going.
Mm.
And then, you start to see that there are people in the sessions that are like, you start recognizing people's names and faces,
Mm.
and so then some people will be like, "Hey, Megan, it's good to see you again," or,
Oh,
"Congratulations, you're doing so well." I'm like, "Yeah, you're getting there," or like they'll clap, like, it's just you just start to feel like you're knowing people and that you're seen.
yeah. That is so cool. And I love most recently, and this is the shout out I talked about at the begin. So you're funny because you decided that you were going to have an accountability partner, right? As part of this.
Well, that's one of the things that they say is like, "Hey, everyone should have an accountability partner," and I was like, "What does that mean? I don't even know. How do you find an accountability partner?" It was a whole mess. I didn't know.
Yeah. And I don't know that process for you, but what I thought was great is that you found your ADHD Michelle.
I did.
So I've been your accountability partner. Me and Michelle, your sister, has been your accountability partner since you were little, really.
Yeah.
And when we were in Japan, I was in Japan, you were in New York. We started this long time ago. I mean, gosh, now almost what, 20 years ago?
Yeah, back when FaceTime was called iChat.
Whoa.
Who remembers iChat?
And we would get on and I would be, and it worked out well, I think, because it was late at night for you and it was morning for me.
Yeah.
And that never worked as well ever again, because anytime we're in the same time zone, we do not function at the same time of day. But when we were across the world from each other, it was perfect. And we would clean our houses together. Remember?
We have trouble just, like, getting the podcast
Oh,
recorded
oh
now
yeah. No,
because we're on the same time
yeah,
zone. It's
it's
terrible.
terrible. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was so excited because you said, I have an accountability partner and you're never going to guess what her name is. And I was like, what? And you're like, Michelle. I'm like, what? You
And
found
she spells it the same
the right
way.
way, thank you, 2
The
L's,
right
okay. But good
Mhm.
job. So I just wanna say I have never met Michelle, as of yet, but someday I hope to meet you, Michelle. We are so excited that you are Megan's accountability partner. Super cool.
One of the coaches asked about the podcasts,
Mm.
like, 'cause a lot of times I'll use the focus session actually to edit this
Oh,
podcast.
okay.
So I'll say like, "Hey, I'm gonna do 25 minutes of editing," and then I usually am trying to do laundry or I'm doing the kitchen cleaning. And so then they're like, "Oh, what kind of podcast do you have?" Or they'll see, like, my microphone, like, "Yeah, you're clearly a podcaster." And then they're like, "Oh my gosh, send a link to us and let's see it." And so Michelle was one of the people who was there, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I wanna check it out too." And so she's been listening,
Aw.
and she's the reason that, like, last week I posted our faces again on YouTube because she's like, "I wanted to see you guys, like, you just sound like so much fun." And so I was like, "Okay, I'll
I'll
try." It's
try.
not gonna be great,
Yeah.
but
Well, it was funny because, we've been doing it with the video for a while, and both of us, I think I hit fall, which is a tough time for me, and you had a lot of stuff going on trying to apply for jobs and whatnot, and we're like, "We don't wanna do our makeup. We don't wanna get right." But then I was realizing, I was like,
Mm,
"Do we could still show ourselves. We're just beautiful
yeah.
exactly as we are."
We
Yeah.
are. I mean, we got some good genes, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And anyway, we're awesome because we have so much fun and expression on our faces. So even if we're not beautiful, we're funny.
We are hilarious.
To ourselves
We're
anyway.
freaking
To
hilarious
ourselves for
people.
sure.
Michelle, wait, can I just tell you about the accountability partner
Oh
thing?
yeah.
So so I had seen her on a bunch of different, of our sessions. We had, like, kind of a similar timeline,
Yeah.
times that we would show up, and then I saw her that she was the one who was listening to the podcast, and then I was like, "She just has this great energy, and she just is
Mm.
always, like, cheering people on and talking to people," and I was like, "That's the person I need to be connected to
Yeah.
because I need good energy in my life."
Yeah.
So she I think she messaged me first. She broke the ice.
Oh.
And then we started talking back and forth, and then it was, like, that really awkward moment of, like,
Hey.
"Hey, do you wanna go to the prom with me?" Like, my hands are all sweaty, and do you think that you would want to maybe be my accountability partner? Like, oh, like I said, "So do you have an accountability partner yet?
You're
Like,
trying to be all nonchalant.
are you seeing anybody?" And she's like, "No, I don't have one yet." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, "Do you wanna go to the prom with me?"
I'm just like picturing you with this big giant like sign, that's like, "Will you be my accountability partner?" With like
Totally.
balloons and fireworks and stuff. I love it.
I really wanna make that like, I wanna make, like, a little GIF or a
Yeah.
meme or whatever it is so that people can use that when they're trying to find their accountability partners, like, "Be my accountability partner."
Check this box.
Check this box,
Do you want yes
please.
or no? Check this box. That's so cute.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you guys connected. And I was kind of wondering like what we always again like talk a little bit about strategies. How do you see this sort of fitting into long-term strategies and how might the accountability partner aspect of it be, in your thoughts in terms of how you might utilize it going forward?
I have actually just recently been thinking about this. Can you believe it?
Well, there's so much that is a surprise to me this year, Megan. We're now a year into doing these. And I know we really like did a soft launch and then hard launch in February. So February is our real anniversary. But for us, this has
Yeah.
been a full year and of discussions. And we have 80 hours, you guys, of podcasting that we never aired, that we tried so many different things and we're talking
Yep.
to each other until we found what we wanted to talk about, I think, for a real long time. And
Mhm.
that is this really radical acceptance, finding the joy in ADHD, finding the real interesting curiosity that we have, the curiousness that we have around this, and because it is so fascinating. Your brain has always fascinated me, and so it actually doesn't surprise me that you're evolving and changing. What does
Mm,
surprise me sometimes, I think, is how much joy you're finding in that process. Like, I've never seen you
mm.
joyful in that process before. It's always been, I'm searching for this thing I can't find. I'm feeling lost. I'm feeling overwhelmed. You still get that way. That still happens.
Yeah.
But no, I guess in a way it doesn't surprise me, but I'm very curious to know what you were thinking about.
I did this challenge. They had a challenge for ADHD Awareness Month, and they challenged us to show up every single day of the week
Mm,
for 3 weeks straight.
mm,
And there's been a few days because, like, my life blew up last
yeah.
week. So there's been a few days where I didn't physically have time to go in the morning
Mm,
and during the day
mm.
because of the time differences and it's all over the world. When I'm working, people are doing their nighttime routine. And they
Oh,
say that. They're like, "Hey, I'm doing my bedtime routine." And I was like, "That's actually really interesting. Well, maybe I could do that to sort of be a part of this challenge still." So I started doing my nighttime routine with them.
wow.
And I realized I was like, "You know what? I have been needing to figure out how to be consistent with my nighttime routine
Mm.
when I start work because I'm going to have to go against my chromosomal chronologic whatever that thing is.
Yeah, that, like, genetic predisposition to wanting to be up at
Yeah.
night, not in the morning.
I'm gonna have to go
Yeah,
against
your
it.
nature.
So my nature, yes. And
Mhm.
so I was thinking, I'm like, what I could do is since you have to be on time, ugh,
Ugh.
then it would force me to start my nighttime routine on time
Mm.
and at the time that I want to. So what I could do is I could sign up for a session at the same time every single night so that I can really just get into the habit of going to bed early.
Mm.
And then I thought, well, I could also do it in the morning if I need to. Um, but I think nighttime is probably the biggest one for me. It's just like being able to get to bed on time. If I can get enough sleep, then I'm so much better the next day.
Absolutely. Your whole life is different when you sleep.
Yeah, and I did ask one of the coaches. I was like, So because you can like message the coach, privately
Mm.
during the sessions. And I was like, so I got this job. And oh, that was the cool thing. When I got the job, it was like the same day and I was like on a focus session and I was telling them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got this job. And everyone was like super excited. They were all clapping for me. And I'm like, oh,
Aw.
thanks, guys.
Aw.
And someone remembered it. There was like a social hour session, like you can sign up, like where you can actually you can turn on your microphones and you actually can talk to people.
Mm.
And one lady was like, I was on the session that you got your job. And I was like,
Oh.
oh, thanks, guys.
Oh. See, you are memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
But
cool.
she said that actually there's a couple of people who will use the group, like, they just sometimes they keep their cameras off, but they'll use it at work.
Oh.
And I was thinking to myself, like, that might be really helpful if I can take my own computer in with me and then just, like, have a focus session up.
Yeah. Or even on your phone, right?
Yeah, even on my phone,
Or
or
iPad or
iPad or
something?
something.
Oh, that's great. Okay. I'm
Yeah,
very curious from, this group and anyone else who's listening, what their strategies might be in terms of body mirroring and using groups like this. I just think this is so cool. And as someone who loves you, it's also I mean, I don't know how to say this, but also it's kind of a relief.
really.
Yeah, because I feel this tremendous sense of responsibility sometimes of being that butler, and
Mm,
it's so lovely to know that I can still do that and I can still be that, but it's not my like, you don't need me as a primary for that, especially
yeah.
since our time of days are so different and our clocks are so different, just and it's wonderful. So I am so sorry that I called everybody a cult. I apologize. Don't write in and yell at me. I now I understand. I hadn't been able to be curious with Megan about this until now. So I'm so grateful to all of you who have clapped my sister on and have, helped her to be more successful, because you do tell me regularly about these sessions, and you do regularly tell me. I didn't quite understand the detail of it till now, but you tell me how important it's been in your life, and I think that's such a great gift you all are giving each other.
You didn't even know that, like, they were helping you out too. It's kinda cool. It's like a ripple effect that
Yeah,
you can have such a huge impact on families.
absolutely. Because, when I get up in the morning, I have about 5 people in my world that I'm trying to make sure they're up to, right? Or like
Yeah.
going, or there's something that they need. And you're one of them, have been historically one of them. And so I've been realizing that I've been having to check in with you less and less, but I didn't know why. Like, I mean, I don't
Mm.
mean to say, like, I haven't, but you've just had the podcast up and it seemed magical to me. I was like, "Oh, she's done with it. Okay," and, like, you figured out how to do it in less time and less tomatoes that it's been taking you and all of that work you've been doing, and it sounds like this group has been super instrumental in helping you to be able to do that. So, I'm very pleased to, like, give up that part of my job. It's totally fine. Totally fine.
You're like,
Yeah.
"Here, you may have it. Take it."
Well, because it's also not hard for them, right? Like, it's not
Yeah.
all on one person, and that's like you guys are distributing it out. Even the coaches, it sounds like, are distributing it out. It's not like, I mean, that's a really, really cool. I'm excited to hear about it.
Well, and that's what's neat about it is that whenever you need a session, there's someone available.
Yeah.
Because they've set it up where there's somebody who's in South America, and there's somebody who's in Europe, and there's somebody who's in the Philippines. There's somebody who's they're just everyone is all over the world so that it's a different time of day for each person, and if, you need a session at midnight, there's gonna be somebody on, no matter where you are in the world.
Wow.
And and it just provides such freedom to me.
Mm.
It's almost I don't know, I all of a sudden had, like, a guide dog in my mind. It's like
Mm.
this accessibility tool that allows me to not have to rely on my family or on somebody else
Yes.
to live.
It is independence.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
I mean, I think I was working on my resume while
Mhm.
in those sessions,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be really interesting, I think, to see how our relationship changes and develops because we don't have to have that component as often in there. Like, it's gonna be really interesting to see how we grow together and what we get to do together because that part's taken care
Yeah,
of.
it's super exciting to me because it really is meeting each other on a different plane almost. I mean,
Yeah.
and there is this sense of, and again, I wasn't aware until this moment that I just haven't been texting you every morning to check in. I think I did this week. I think that's why it made me realize, because this week, I knew you had had a really tough week last week. And so I
Yeah.
just was like, okay, I haven't heard you say anything. Because usually now you've been texting me, telling me that you have the podcast done. And I'm like, whoa, what in the actual heck is going on? But it didn't happen this week. So I did chat you. And I think you
Yeah,
must have hopped on one of these sessions.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, this week was the hardest week for me to get the podcast up
Mm,
on
mm.
Thursday. And I hadn't even started it until the night
Which
before.
you haven't been doing
And
recently. You've mostly had it done, like, Sunday night or Monday or something and way ahead, you
yeah.
know?
And just because of the nature of how crazy the week was, I just didn't have physical time or energy. And so I knew I had to get it done, and I knew that with everything that we've been doing together, I knew it would take about 3 to 4 tomatoes.
Mm.
And I was like, "Okay, I have to get through it." So I logged into a session around, like, 11 a.m. and said, "I'm committing to this. I'm committing to 30 minutes of mastering the audio." And then I literally fell asleep for, like, 10 minutes in the middle of mastering. And that's okay because that's what they're there for. They're like some people are like, "Oh, I fell asleep." And they're like, "Okay, great. You got a great nap in. That's awesome. Good for you."
Oh my
You
gosh.
know?
So
And
you're
and
it's
so
totally
I
okay to fall asleep even? Oh,
yes,
how
it's totally okay. Like
wonderful. Oh,
people actually sign in to their session in order to take a nap because it's so hard to take a nap for us too.
wow.
So I literally, like, stayed there, I did one, and then I was on for probably 4 or 5 sessions, and I just could not get my act together for, like, half of those sessions,
Mm,
but I did get my act together for the other half. So,
perfect.
like, I would get up and I would, like, go and scroll for a bit, and I would just, like, pass out on my bed, and then I would get back up. I'm like, "No, no, no, you gotta go. You gotta get back there." There was somebody waiting for me to
Mm.
know what did I get done in those last 50 minutes? And I was like, I got through the mastering in one or 2 sessions, and then I got through the the podcast, like, and the editing,
Mm.
and so I just did a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, and I think I even texted you, I was like, "I have a plan to get it
You did.
done."
Yeah. I mean, and I was like, is this the Megan that is technically my sister? Or is somebody stolen her phone? There's a plan? I was like, "What the what the heck is going on here, people?" It was awesome. It was great. I mean, I didn't understand the detail of everything that you just said, but I knew it was different, and
Yeah,
even on a hard week. So I'm just so curious. I think because ADHD and neurodivergency in general, but it all presents specifically with ADHD presents so differently with so many different people. We're definitely wanting to explore a couple of books. We're thinking of maybe having a book club around some of these chapters where we can dive deep into things a little bit more together. And I think your real intentionality is to always focus on the emotional component of things because I think sometimes that gets overlooked a little bit and is
yeah.
definitely needed. Like when you're first being diagnosed and especially later in life. I mean, you were diagnosed so early, but for a lot of people we know who have been diagnosed later, we have family who've been diagnosed later. It's such a daunting diagnosis, I think, in certain ways because it does present so differently, and the what will help you is so different, right? What
Yeah.
strategies you might need. So we're definitely looking to have some different voices that can contribute their own ideas about how things are going, and looking at that emotional component that goes with it. That it's okay that it just sucks right now, for some people when they're in the middle of that beginning of understanding. We know education, it's helped us, right? Educating ourselves has
Yeah.
been led you to this moment, has led you to this group, this strategy that's working so beautifully for you right now.
Led me to a full-time job,
Yes.
led me to cleaning out my pantry in 2 days and actually finishing it.
Amazing. Yeah. Such a
It's
success.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I think I wanna add also, we do the emotional side, but we also do the physiological
Mm.
component,
Mhm.
because I think, we talk a lot of, like, the resources that are out there, there's a lot of symptoms and strategies and good and all, the things that are
Yeah.
typical, but yeah, the emotional side of it and the like, how it affects your
How
body,
does it, yeah, the
and
somatic,
how do
like,
you
feelings. Absolutely.
yeah, how does it feel within your body? And so, like, I know for me, uh, it affects me in a specific way, but I know that I'm not a blanket for everybody who has ADHD,
Mm-mm.
and I'm really curious, like, I can empathize with people who have gotten a later diagnosis, but I don't know your experience and your struggles. And so I really would love to be able to talk with more people and get a deeper understanding of what they had to go through so that I can be more informed as to what their experiences were like.
Absolutely, because I think having these invisible diagnoses, when you do have a true hyperactivity component, it is visible as a kid. If you never had the hyperactivity ever in your life, then it truly was invisible. And feeling
Yeah.
alone with that and not wanting people to feel alone with that, right? That's a huge piece of what we want to continue our conversations for our own knowledge, but also to make sure there's a community around people to know that you're not alone.
Yeah. I always say that I was just undeniable, right? I was so
Mm,
undeniably ADHD
yeah,
that they couldn't put it on anything else. And, for the people who had that internally instead of externally, like, I can't even begin to imagine just the mental struggle that must have
yeah.
been, and I would just, love to be able to explore that more so that we can bring that side of it and bring that viewpoint to this audience.
Absolutely. And it's not just men or women, it's not gender specific, but I do think there are a couple of books that are focusing more on women. There's one, Women with ADD, that we kind of wanted to look at. And I liked one of the quotes because I think there's a lot of still shame and stigma around coming out with your ADHD and having to say this is what I've got going on. And her quote in the book that I was just listening to earlier today before we did this was coming out of the messy closet.
Mm.
And I thought that's so beautiful because, it really is something that is hard to admit. And yet I think that it's important to be able to in order to radically accept it, I think you have to also radically admit it, that this is what's going on. And for me with dyslexia, it's been very difficult. I had to figure that out when I was teaching. And I remember being like, there's no spell check on the board, folks. So if I spell something wrong, can you please let me know, but do it kindly? And like for high schoolers, that's like, not an easy thing, but they were always really sweet about it. But it was because I was so open about it eventually. I mean, I tried to
Yeah.
hide it for so many years and just kind of, take it on and not be honest about it. And I think the more I say it and the more I acknowledge it, also the more students who I work with that really also understand, and are happy that they know you can be successful even though you have that diagnosis. And I think that's what you're showing too, is that even though you have this diagnosis, you can be successful. You just have to figure out the strategies and own what parts of it are really awesome about you, and just like anybody, right? And what parts need some
Yeah.
support. And like you now have your guide dog, which is so cool. I love that analogy.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the coming out of the closet, it's really funny because this last go around was this pantry closet, and I asked my coach in you can do like a side chat with her, and I was like, "Do you have any recommendations? Because I have to do this thing and I have no idea where to start." And she's like, "Yes, I love organizing. Send me pictures," or then she had me I was able to log in with my phone
Mm,
and show her a bunch of different show her the whole thing, and then she was able to give me just some quick here. Okay, so here are these strategies I would recommend, and it took me 2 days. I did not finish it the first day, and I told Brian, I put a table out. I was like, "Okay, I did not finish it today, but I will finish it I will finish it."
mm.
I wasn't sure when.
You're like, I'm not
Uh,
committing to tomorrow.
yeah, because I don't know. I'm not gonna commit and overcommit,
Yeah.
underperform. But then what was amazing is that, everybody who was there, they saw me, they heard me working on it for those 2 days, and,
Mm,
I was telling her, like, this last 10% is always the hardest for me,
mm.
putting up the table and, not having it out forever, and those last little bits, and so, it took me probably 3 or 4 more sessions the next day, and I did finish it. I felt like I finished it, which
Wow.
I never feel
You
like I
do
finished
not.
it.
I don't think you even knew what finish felt like. Yeah.
No. And I got to say at the end, "I finished this," and I just saw, all, the little galleries. I saw people just, all clapping for me, and they're just, so happy,
Mm.
it just provides you that dopamine hit that you
Yeah.
need to know you can do it. And something you said at the very beginning about how much more joyful I am,
Mm,
I think that joy comes from being open
mm.
and acknowledging where I am and acknowledging who I am and not being afraid to say, this is what I need and this is who I am.
Yeah.
Just like you were saying, it became much more joyful for you once it's teaching, once you
Mhm.
acknowledged your dyslexia.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the greatest gift this last year that, you've given me and I've given myself, is to be so much more open about this, and it's not shameful anymore because it's not this, dirty little secret in the back closet of "Well, that's just Megan."
Yeah.
It's, "No, that's Megan, and she's awesome."
She is awesome.
Awesome.
Mm, I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.
Bye. I don't know why I kiss you.
I'll
Saying
take
goodbye.
it. I'll take it. I liked it. uh,
Thanks for listening to the Spicy Brain Podcast, brought to you by Spicy Brain Studios. In this episode, we did a deep dive into the strategies that I've been using to harness the full capacity of my ADHD brain. I am learning to work with my brain as opposed to fighting with it. We hope you enjoyed us navigating our neurodivergent brains through curiosity, joy, and radical acceptance. Please take a moment to share this episode with someone you think could benefit from the conversation. Sharing it really helps us to continue building these episodes and create better content for you. And also, don't forget to follow us on whatever platform you're currently listening to so that you can get notified each week. Now, next week, we'll be starting a new series discussing topics specifically targeting strategies for home organization. We're diving into Lisa Woodruff's book, How ADHD Affects Home Organization. I have recently learned that my messy house is not my fault, and the first step to understanding why it's so hard for me to keep things organized is to talk about it. So, let's get ready to talk about executive functioning! But until then, here's to a great end of the week, and remember to stay curious.